family story. Reverend P.J. Mack was born January 3rd, 1861 in the state of South Carolina. His mother was a slave girl of 15 years at his birth. His father was her young master, a groom of less than 2 years, married to a poor but very beautiful woman whom we shall call Miss Neal. The father will be referred to as Mr. G. My mother's name was Charlotte. I shall give you a little of Mr. G's background as it was told to me. He, Mr. G, having died 6 months before my father was born, it is said that the G's could trace their family back to both the royal blood of Scotland and England. They were very rich, with lots of slaves and land before the Civil War. Miss Mary's people were middle class or poor. Therefore, she was not accepted by her husband's family, though they did give him his inheritance when he got married. Soon after his marriage, the war started. In fact, he played a very important part in the firing on Fort Sumter. If I said what, he could be identified, and that would embarrass his descendants, and that is not my reason for writing this. My intentions are to credit and honor to whom, in my humble opinion, honor is due. Miss Mary, my white grandfather's wife, must have been a real Christian and heroine, though I don't think she has been acclaimed such by any member of her family or race. Her only son was born 2 weeks before his father died. His Negro son, by the chambermaid, was born 6 months later. Miss Mary took the maid's son and reared him along with her own son as her own child. Who but a real Christian would do that? She nursed him from her breast, had her servants treat him just as her own son was treated, being very careful not to show or allow others to show any differences between the two boys. Though my father was mixed, his mother and grandmother were mulattoes, and he was just a little fairer than his white brother, and they looked like twins, even after they were grown. So it was easy for her to let them grow up believing they were real brothers until they became high school age. She taught them at home, took them to church, and sat in the back where the ex-slaves sometimes come and sat. She never sent them to Sunday school because she knew the teachers would have separated them or shut DJ out altogether. But she taught them the Bible along with their other lessons as a part of their education. After the war ended, Mr. G's family's slaves all left them and wouldn't work for them, and they had lost all their money during the war, and they became very poor. The white foreman came in possession of most of their property, while the men of the other family either got killed or died during the war. Miss Mary, on the other hand, who had a Negro foreman, prospered through and immediately after the war, and not only took care of her husband's aristocratic family, but all the Negroes on the place until they could get adjusted to their freedom. It was because of the difference the family made between the two boys. When they finally recognized their daughter and sister-in-law, along with the fact that they were ready for high school, and there was no school for Dad to go to. She got his uncle, his mother's that Charlotte, the nurse, who had been dead since he was 4, was his real mother. Of course, he felt bitter for a while towards Miss Mary and the whole Caucasian race. He later became a Christian and realized all the sacrifices that she made to give him a chance to grow up as a normal human being, something experienced by very few colored people at the time or even now. He remembered how she always tried to teach them to do to others as they would be done by, even to the letter. If one of them did something mean to the other, she would coax him, the offended one, to do something nice for the offender. And that way, they couldn't stay angry long. DJ was told who he really was between the ages of 15 and 16. He was married to Hattie at the age of 18. Hattie was all Negro, had attended the free school taught by a Yankee. She had finished the courses taught in the free school at that time: reading, writing, arithmetic, history and geography, music and grammar. She had a beautiful singing voice, which was a great help to my dad in later years. She could also spin, weave, and dye material to make her own clothes, but knew very little of the art of caring for the sick, especially one who was accustomed to the care Dad was. Soon after their marriage, he came down with some kind of rheumatism, which was very painful. They didn't have money to get a doctor, nor did she know anything to do. Someone went for Miss Mary. She came, saw his condition, sent for a doctor, and sent to her home for a cot, clothes, and plenty, and a variety of food. Put up her cot in the room with Dad, and taught Mother, who was with her first child to nursing, how to prepare for herself and her child using a big doll for demonstration. Something never heard of among colored people at that period of time. Those lessons were destined to be very useful to many, which we will mention later. Miss Mary stayed with them 3 weeks before going home. She made frequent trips back and forth, bringing food, etc., until Dad was well again and able to work. That ended all the bitterness that might have been lurking there after his conversion. He soon entered the ministry in the special missionary jurisdiction of the Reformed Episcopal Church, where he served nearly 50 years. To the union of DJ and Hattie G. Mack was born 13 children. One died at the age of 3, 12 grew to man and womanhood. 9 sons, 3 daughters. Of the 9 boys, 5 became ministers. Other 4 served in the church's warden, vestryman, choir director, lay reader, chairman of the layman league of the conference. Of the girls, I am the older. Because of my mother's illness, I didn't get a chance to learn any special trades. I took over the housekeeping for the family at the age of 10. I can cook a little, patch, sew, wash, iron, make beds, and do general cleaning, etc., but nothing outstanding. Since my marriage not being blessed with any children of my own, I have reared, educated 2 girls, and have helped 11 others by taking them in the home and giving them their board and room free. I wanted an education very badly, but my parents couldn't hire anyone to take care of Mother and the children. Several of the boys and the 2 other girls did have a better chance. The older of the two sisters is a nurse and is considered by some of the leading doctors as one of the best in Charleston. The younger sister, the 13th child, was 10 when mother died. She came to live with me, attended grammar high school in Augusta, Georgia, at Payne College. She is now working for the government for the interior. Both of them are very active in the church as missionaries, Sunday school teachers. The younger of them, like myself, has no children, has raised and educated a girl, and has a boy in school now. The nurse has taken time out to bear 12 children. One died at the age of 14. There are 11 living, ranging from 6 to 32. Getting back to Miss Mary and her goodness to my father and mother, and its effect on others through her training of my mother to care for father. She learned to like caring for sick people and was called on by people of both races when someone became ill. Her services was always free, though some of the better class, I don't mean better in the real sense of the word, but the wealthier farmers would remember her when they killed a hog, lamb, or cow, and would send the parson and his family a piece of meat. In the various communities where father was known, he was called the parson by all except his own members. To them, he was the rector. Now that we are grown and we are Christians, don't think for a moment that we were a bunch of little angels while growing up. We were a very mischievous lot, always cooking up some mischief, but never doing anything to hurt anyone. After the family got so big, father bought 222 acres of land and sell the boys on the farm. Mother knew more about farming than he did, so she gave all the orders on the farm. The boys did the work while father attended his pastoral work. In between funerals, weddings, and other weekday activities when both of them had to go, then we would have what we called fun, riding the cows, climbing up on the house or barn in trees, hitching the goat to the baby's wagon instead of pulling it ourselves. Sometimes the goat would run away and spill it out, but I guess the Lord took care of us, but none of us ever got hurt or was ever sick enough to call a doctor until we were about grown. During time, a group of neighborhood boys would take care of from 4 to 5 barns together. Both colored and white would work together. It was fun that way. Sometimes they would catch an possum and roast it, but more often they would raise their parent chicken young. Most parents figured about 2 years to the curing of 1 barn of tobacco. By that time, I had become a big girl and didn't take part in their activities anymore. Another prank they played on father was to go to their room as if they were gone to bed, slip out of the window, hitch his buggy horse to the buggy, and go take some girls for a ride. They would back the horse out of the yard so that the tracks would look like the horse was coming in the day before instead of going out. When they got back, they made noises like cats fighting. Someone would go out to scare the cats off, and in that way let them in the back door. The brothers grew up to young men. The middle group would come home from church on Sunday, eat their dinner, and disappear. After several Sundays, we older ones decided to investigate. To our surprise, they had built them a church. Down by the swamp, out of old boards, logs, and clay, where they and my oldest brother's children and some of the neighbors' children had services every afternoon. One of minister. He was doing preaching that day. First, the pastor presented him as the Reverend DJ Mack, and he got up and preached one of Father's favorite sermons. After singing, led by my sister, way down yonder by myself, I couldn't hear nobody pray. He was presented as Reverend DJ Mack, our oldest brother. Then he imitated CJ using gestures and pulpit manner. More singing by the choir led by brothers, daughters. Song this time, I Will Be a Witness, with many cries of hallelujah from the audience. He was again presented as the superintendent of the Charleston Diocese of the Methodist Church. He then took for his text, open wide the gates, and the King of Glory shall come in. He stood erect in his place behind the front desk, placed his sermon notes on the make-believe Bible, and began with much dignity to preach a sermon he had heard the superintendent preach. Adding all the big-sounding words he used a good measure. By that time, his unseen audience left because it had begun to rain, and we were not as comfortably placed as they. But long after we left, we could hear the singing. Mother decided that it was a mockery and had to be stopped at once. Dad said, no, let them alone. They were probably just as sincere as we adults and with more purity of heart. Then, too, they were not only out of the way of temptation to get in trouble themselves, but was keeping some of the neighbor children as well. So the church went on for several years, passing from one group of small fry to another. The only prank any of them pulled on anyone except the family that might have caused trouble was by two of my younger brothers, aged 14 and 12. A young man came to call on me that they didn't like. Said young man had to pass a cemetery. That was not far from our house, so when it was about time for him to leave, they got two white sheets off of their beds. Yes, we had finally reached the place where even a small fry could have white homespun instead of checked homespun sheets. They went to the cemetery, wrapped themselves in the sheets, and lay down between two graves. When the young man came, they made a peculiar noise to get his attention, then rose up as if out of the grave. They said the man took one look and began to run. They followed him about a third of a mile until he reached the highway. He ran the whole 4 miles home. His family said he was so tired and scared they had to put him to bed. Nobody found out who the ghosts were until after those two were grown, though I suspect the two others, who was 18 and 16, of doing the trick. They didn't like Abram either, but said they had too much sense to do a thing like that, so no one got punished. No one even questioned the real culprit, thinking they were too young to plot a thing like that. Though we had lots of fun while growing up, none of us ever got into any kind of trouble. We were taught to respect both God's law, as it is written, and the law of the land in which we live, and to do unto all as we would have them do to us. We were taught by the circumstances leading to our birth, to two people of such different backgrounds, that there are no superior race, but there are superior people in every race, and some inferiors in every race, some by choice, some by chance. That God made us all one human race to dwell together and to love one another and to love God most of all. I believe that all people are God's people and must be treated as such, no matter what others do or think. I don't think any of us will ever have much of this world's goods because none of us can say no to those in need, whether they are members of the family or not. My younger sister used to say, if I got 3 decent dresses, I'd worry about it until I found someone that needed one. I am not really that bad, but after all, I can only be buried in but one, and I can keep clean with just a few. The less I have to wear, the quicker I can get dressed to go. I am not any freer than the others. We just can't see people in need and not try to help. Maybe that trait is due to Miss Mary's training of my father, but my mother, whose background was all Negro, was his equal in every way. They had a happy life together. Though they are gone, the family live in accord without any bickering among us. There are only 7 of us living, 39 grands, 42 great grands, and 11 great great grandchildren, all very loyal where the family is concerned. Most of those who are old enough to make their own choices are members of the church. They are Reformed Episcopalian, Methodist, Baptist, AME, and CMEs, according to the various communities in which they are living in our original state, South Carolina, in Virginia, Pennsylvania, California, Washington, West Virginia, Maryland, and Florida. My home is in Augusta, Georgia. This is the description of the D.J. Mack